everybody. Hi. Hi. We're so happy to see so many people here to talk about the Black Butler musicals. Yay. This is our second Black Butler panel. We did one again last night. So on the upstairs, downstairs. Nice to see you guys again, some of you. My name is Grelle. No, not really. I wish. We should probably introduce ourselves. My name is Kelley Frank. I teach English. I forgot for a minute. I teach English at the University of West Georgia. I also, my specialty is in Victorian literature, but also in gender issues. So Grelle is my fave, obviously, because some people get confused about her. Bassie, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm simply one hell of a butler. I'm April. I am a psychology major at Brunel University with a theater minor. I have been cosplaying for about 7 years and cosplaying Black Butler specifically for 5 years now. And I also cosplay Aloise. If you saw me yesterday in the panel, I was Aloise then.
I am William T. Spears, supervisor of London Dispatch.
In pajamas.
Just kidding. I'm Marlena Frank. I work in IT support over at Georgia Tech. And I have been a big fan of Black Butler for a long time. I'm also an author. I write in horror and fantasy, and I do have a YA dark fantasy novel coming out in April with werewolves, because, you know, why not? So, yeah.
And altogether, we comprise Black Knight Productions cosplay. We have a lot of other fellow Black Butler cosplayers, and we do cosplay, but we also do a lot of theoretical and analytical stuff as well, because Black Butler is such a complicated and wide-ranging anime, manga, musical, movie. It's got a lot of stuff. So we like to unpack that stuff all together because we're just curious people doing curious things.
So it'd probably be a good idea to start out with a trailer for one of the more recent musicals, Book of Circus.
Has anybody seen? How many people have never seen any of the musicals? Okay, you are
Awesome.
in for a treat. Okay, we're going to introduce you to something highly addictive. I am so sorry. But it's also awesome, too.
現在ロンドンに滞在中の移動サーカス団ノアの箱舟サーカス。なんでも彼らが立ち寄った町では何人もの子供たちが姿を消すと。Ladies and gentlemen, アジャーハンエンタンナハン世紀のショーの幕開けです。
So, as you can see, it's a big production. That's a big budget musical.
And that was just done last year. I think that's the only one they're going to do of that particular musical.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Next up is the Campania arc.
Yes.
So, Book of Atlantic, if you saw that movie, they're going to do that on stage. So that should be interesting. But there have been a lot before then.
So we're going to start with that Butler Friendship. That was the first musical that they made for Black Butler. It was kind of a test run.
Low budget.
Very low budget.
Extremely low budget.
But if you're a diehard fan, it is good. And then we move on
In
to...
parts.
The Most Beautiful Death in the World is probably the musical that got the most attention for the Black Butler musicals. It ran for 2 years. It had 1 year, then it did an encore back in 2013 as well.
And that's the one that is probably the most popular. Anybody a fan of Eric Slingby and Alan Humphreys? Yes! That is where they were introduced. They made a brief cameo at one point in the manga, but yes, this is where they were introduced and came from. So it's definitely worth watching for that.
And it's the one that's probably the least based, besides the first one, that Butler Friendship, it's the least based on the manga and the anime. It's more of its own story. It doesn't really happen in the anime or the manga. The latter two that we've seen that are more recent are the arcs from the anime and manga.
And if you are a fan of the Shinigami, it really expands on their world and kind of gives you more background as to how they work.
How they work. We work hard. That's
Some
how we
more
work.
than others.
Be quiet, Will. I'm gonna ask you.
We started getting really high budgets with Licorice That Blazes the Earth, which covers the Jack the Ripper arc. And they did 2 runs of that with the fabulous Akane Liv, who plays Madame Red.
Yes, and that one has been really popular. You've probably seen screenshots from it and maybe thought it was cosplay on Tumblr. But there are actual screenshots of the actors performing in that.
Noah's Ark Circus, that was one we showed clips from earlier. Just ran last year. That's the only run they did of that one. But that one was also very high
This
budget.
is the one where we saw the budget kind of explode.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, as you could see from all the circus.
Pyrotechnics.
Yes, those are extremely expensive.
The unicyclist.
Acrobats.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like Cirque du Soleil meets Black Butler.
Yes, yes. And this year and into next year, we have Tango on the Campania, which is one of my favorites. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm interested to see how they're going to make a ship be on a stage.
It should be great.
And sinking a ship.
And we get to
on
see
stage.
Lizzie for the first time on stage as well. So Japan often creates musicals around animes. A lot of the actors go into the musicals with hopes of gaining fame and stardom because they have to get started somewhere before they move on to other musicals.
Mm-hmm. This is a very popular way for people to get their careers started. I did not know this, and I have been a fan of like anime and manga for a long time, and I did not know there were musicals based on like Sailor Moon and Death Note and things like that. There are musicals for all of these stage productions. So if you are a fan of an anime, which I'm assuming you are if you're in here, probably should go and see if there's a musical version of your favorite because there likely is one out there and you can watch it. But the problem is it may not be in English.
And fun fact, Sebastian's actor, the newer one, he actually plays L in the Death Note musical. It's a very different character.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to see his take on that versus him being Sebastian, because they're kind of the complete opposite as far as actions and gestures.
So if you like Sebastian and Elle, then it's kind of like it's your worlds merging together. So
They recently did an Inuyasha musical as well. I haven't seen that yet, but I want to. So
yeah.
These are all pictures from different musicals. Often they get mistagged as cosplay, but these are actually created, some of them designed by Yana and put together.
Yana Toboso Sensei, if you don't know, the author and creator of Black Butler, Kuroshitsuji, she does a lot of work for the anime. She does all the designs for the anime characters and the storylines, and she also does the same thing for the musicals and any sort of fashion footwear they come out with. I mean, they design like high heels for Grelle and Undertaker and Sebastian and CL. So she does all of that design work.
She works a lot with the fashion industry with all of her work. And you can see all the designs that she's done. They'll sometimes release clips of her artwork, and you can see exactly how they've come across on the stage. A lot of these are unique outfits that have never been shown before, but she designs all of them for the stage. So anything that you see on stage is stuff that Yana has approved. So differences in the musicals. Like we said earlier, some of them do, I know, it's a really painful scene.
Yeah.
It diverges from the musicals and what happens in the manga, but a lot of them are kind of adding on to the existing world, with the Shinigami world, for example.
Yes, and one thing that you might notice is that although Eric Slingby and Alan Humphreys were unique to The Most Beautiful Death in the World, this panel right here is from the manga, and we do see Eric and Alan in a flashback mentioning how bad things can happen to Shinigami if they don't repent for their sins and misfortunes. So they are now manga official canon, and so that brings into the question whether or not The Most Beautiful Death in the World is canon. We don't know what's canon and what's not now.
And they did show up in an OVA in season 2 as well. So.
Yes, in the episode with Will the Reaper, they are sitting on the couch, I believe.
Yes.
Yep.
So they briefly make an appearance, even there.
They're kind of like little Easter egg characters that if you love them, you know where to spot them. But if you don't know anything about them, then you have no idea who these people are. But there's a lot of fan speculation that they're going to be referred to more often now that they've shown up in the manga.
So different takes on a character. There are 2 actors who have played Sebastian. There's Yuya and Yuta. They can get kind of confusing. I know their names are very similar. Yuta is actually coming back for Tango. He wasn't going to originally because of his schedule being very full, but he made time for it. And so he's going to be Sebastian again.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
I love him.
Yes.
I love him. They have very different takes on Sebastian. Yuya was in the first few musicals, and then Yuta took over. Yuya's portrayal of Sebastian is very much lighthearted. He makes Sebastian a comic relief in various scenes, especially when things are tense. He's also really well known for loving Michael Jackson. He's a dancer. Yuya is very much a pop dancer. He's also a pop singer. He does sing the ending song Bird in season 2 of the anime. And so we see him a lot use his dancing to be comedic. For example, he references how he made Undertaker laugh at one point, and it's by doing a famous Michael Jackson dance move.
Yes, he moonwalks.
Yes, he moonwalks.
And Undertaker, that's how he makes Undertaker laugh for the Jack the Ripper arc. So that's pretty funny. I would never have guessed that. Good job, Sebastian.
And he is a pop singer, so his style focuses on performing in a concert type style. So he focuses on singing a lot and doing pop dancing. Whereas Yuta, he actually has never seen the anime unless he recently watched it. He bases his character solely on the manga. So his Sebastian is much more creepy and menacing. In several scenes in the most recent musical in the Noah's Ark Circus, we see him looming over Ciel. At one point, he waves his shoulders almost like a predator and comes to stand up behind him like he's about to eat him.
His scene with Beast is more creepy because
Yes.
as you can probably imagine, because he's playing him as a straight predator instead of someone who's kind of joking around and things. It's creepy Bassie. Still sexy Bassie. Still sexy Bassie.
That's debatable.
So musicals, how many people in here have ever been a part of a musical, either tech or on stage or being a stage manager? A lot. So you guys know how much work goes into making a musical. It's a lot. I've been in several. It takes a long time. You have rehearsals, and you have tech, and you have choreography, and you have singing, and you have sets that you have to learn, and props you have to use. So you also have the musicians, which have to learn the music, and you have costumes. Well, I will say, no matter how many rehearsals we have, someone never learns.
Are you talking to me?
Who else would I be talking to?
That's rude. Why would you do this in the middle of the panel?
Because I like insulting you.
Oh my
Do
god.
we really have to do this now?
Yes.
You gonna do something about it? Go.
And that is choreography. For example, the move that they just did here, they practiced it for several weeks before they ever, and this is just a small bit. This is actually lifted directly from one of the Licorice musicals toward the end fight that they have. And again, it took several weeks of practicing to get to that point.
And I'm tired.
And actually in the musical, they're singing while this is going on, and there's about another 4 minutes of fighting.
Yes.
Intense fighting, so it's just like, I'm not in this kind of shape. I don't know about that. So that just gives you an idea of how intense it is.
And we actually see during several scenes in one of the musicals, well, several of them actually, Grelle's actor has to go backstage and be on an oxygen mask.
Yes. And I will say, when we practiced this, I got kicked in the head a few times, and I did smack Sebastian in the face with my death scythe a few times. So it is dangerous. You do get hurt in the practicing stages.
And especially in Noah's Ark Circus, because there's a lot of moving sets. For any of you who have seen it, their sets all roll,
They're
especially
kind of
in
moving
circles.
while you're fighting.
Everything.
And there are
rotates.
platforms, and I don't know how many of you have ever stood on a platform that's on a stage, but they are very, very rickety. They do not stay still because they're also on casters, which are the wheels. So they roll around. It's kind of terrifying.
And here's a quick clip as well.
Just of how they practice and prepare.
Yes. This is the fight between me and you.
Mm-hmm.
From Book of Circus.
なぜ私があなたと組まされなくてはいけないのです。私だって嫌ですよ。仕方がないでしょう。私があなたのような害獣と共同作業するなんて。まったく。ショーの内容はこうです。空中でお互い手をつかみ入れ替わります。いいですか？一緒に飛び出しますよ。ワイヤーよし。安全確認よし。坊ちゃん、5分を。No、手は振りたくないの。協力できない Now、願い下げです。早く終わらせてしまいましょう。何をしているんです。それではショーにならないでしょう。あなたのような害獣と手を触れ合わせるなどごめんです。手を出しなさい。それは嫌です。手が腐る。わかりました。それならそちらの仕事の邪魔はしないので、こちらの仕事も邪魔しないでいただけますか。なぜこんなことをしなきゃならないのです。業務以外のことなんてしない主義です。見ても見つかるもののはじき合うだけの手は振りたくないの。協力できないな。願い下げです。早く終わらせてしまいましょう。
William kills me.
In case you couldn't tell, the name of that song was definitely not Yes.
William's theme. No. Just no.
What's wrong with that?
Just no to everything.
That's me on a lot of days.
Thanks, Bessie.
So we also see, as the musicals go on, we see different takes of a character. And we talked about this a bit with Sebastian, but also with Grelle you can see not only does the costume get better over time, but how Grelle is portrayed changes.
Yes. Our actor who plays Grelle. He works very hard to make sure that Grelle is portrayed as a very feminine character. But in the very beginning, in that Butler friendship, Grelle was based kind of portrayed more as a stereotypical gay man, kind of like season 2. The pain. But as we get further into things like The Most Beautiful Death in the World, Grelle actually runs on stage and demands that people use female pronouns for her. There's a lot of attempt to make sure that the body language and everything is a lot more fitting. And so by the time we get to Licorice, where we do see Grelle as a butler and then transform into her beautiful, awesome self, we do get to see that transition of the actor attempting to portray a character who sees herself as female but is having to present and pretend to be male. So it's an interesting layers of acting that are happening in this particular
And it's
scene.
also helped because when Grelle transforms, when she's revealed to be Jack the Ripper, she has a number. She sings and dances, and all her choreography, first of all, is very feminine. And all of her backup dancers, they're all various versions of her. They all are wearing the same color hair, the same vest.
They're all ladies.
They're all female. They're all ladies dancing.
Yeah. So there's not really as much question in the musicals as there is in like the anime, for example. Things like that. So just little touches like that make a big difference. As Yana released more chapters of the manga, the musicals try to keep up and make sure they portray the character appropriately.
Speaking of transformations, this is often used in the musicals to show creatures changing from one form to another.
Thanks,
Sebastian.
Will. Creatures.
What? Sebastian removes his cloak and goes from demon to butler.
Yes, so in the musicals, each time, especially during the later musicals, I don't think they did it in that Butler friendship, but they always have, the opening scene is always the cult scene. It's always where Ciel's in the cage, Sebastian is appearing, and they make a contract. And I think, from my personal opinion, I think they're doing that in case there are people there who are just coming to see a musical that they've heard about is cool and they're not entirely sure what Black Butler is. Because if they just went into the arc instead of showing how they came to be Butler and Earl and that Sebastian's a demon, it would be very confusing to anyone who is not familiar with the fandom. But every time that scene happens, Sebastian is always in a cloak that covers his butler outfit, and he is not the butler until he removes that cloak once the contract is made. And I think it's an interesting way to show that he's a demon and not the butler at that point, because obviously we can't use special effects and CGI on a live musical to do the feather shadowy effect that we see when he's a butler in the anime and manga.
Right, you're having to rely on the audience's imagination quite a bit. And in this scene, for example, Grelle removes her ribbon, and that's when she goes from being a butler to being a Shinigami.
She was always a Shinigami. But yeah, exactly. That's
Yes.
it. That's it. I'm sorry. I'm just
Being
just being
contrary.
Grelle.
I still want to know how they did that change. Part of me thinks it's a double. I don't know who all has seen where she transforms, but her wig even changes. She's standing with her back to the audience, and she has on the brown wig and everything.
And it's really fast.
Yes, and it's super fast, and I'm to this day trying to figure out whether or not they used a double or they just did some magic quick change going on.
Yeah.
Shinigami magic.
Shinigami magic.
Just
Just
teleported
ports
there.
in there. She's fine.
So one of the questions we often get is, where can I buy these musicals?
Yeah.
CD Japan has them. You can get them from there. Anime on Stage, which is a vendor that's almost always at different anime and manga conventions.
I believe they're here.
I believe
Aren't
they're
they
here.
Isn't
I'm not
anime
sure.
on stage? I'm pretty sure they are. They're usually at any convention that has any kind of an anime track.
DragonCon's hard for them to get to, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they got to DragonCon or not.
But they are
typically at-
always at Momo.
Yeah.
Momo and
AWA.
AWA as well. The prices range between $60 and $80 for Blu-ray or DVD sets, which is pricey, and they take a long time to ship. They can
Yeah.
take like a month to ship.
I ordered my copy from CD Japan, and it took a month and a half. Sometimes it can take 3 months because it has to ship from Japan to Hong Kong to China, and then make its way out. So it can take a while for you to get your hands on your happy little Blu-ray. But people ask, why are they so expensive?
Joker's wondering that.
Joker is shook about how pricey that is.
So while all actors are paid for their performances, most do not receive payment for their rehearsal time.
And anyone in here who's been in a musical or stage play knows how much rehearsal goes into this. Weeks, and I'm talking sometimes 7 days a week.
Yeah.
It is a long time, and it is hard work. You can be there for anywhere from 5 hours to the entire day for 12 to 16 hours, and it's physically and mentally demanding.
So basically, they don't get paid for a long portion of it. So the proceeds, basically, their payment comes from
the sale of the Blu-rays and DVDs.
And tickets.
And depending on how well all of that goes, that determines whether they will get paid or not for that rehearsal time that they spent weeks, months doing.
So, for example, with Book of Circus, there are groups online that will create English subtitles, but they will only give you the subtitles if you have proof that you purchased the DVD. There was someone who leaked all of that information, so Book of Circus got all over the internet, and now you see they're not doing a rerun of Book of Circus.
Well, they don't see that it's done well, so from their perspective.
Yeah, from their perspective, it hasn't made enough money, so they're not going to do a rerun of it. They're just going to move on to something else.
And a lot of the people who are subbing the musicals, all of them are doing this for free. They're not asking any charge. They're doing
just fans doing it in their spare
they're
time.
Hardcore fans who happen to know Japanese and English, and they are doing it in their spare time, which takes a long time. And so when they see that it's just being leaked, it is really frustrating. And a lot of subbers have quit doing this
because someone did that.
Yes,
so.
Because someone leaked it. The fandom's
like
gone through like four
different subbers who've been volunteering their time, but because people get very forceful about it, demanding it,
one of those
why they don't
Tumblr
post it up on
accounts
YouTube or something.
One of those Tumblr accounts is called Jane Doe Subs. So they do English subs for
They
these.
used to.
I don't know if they're still going to be doing it or not because they were very frustrated with it.
No, they don't anymore.
Being leaked.
They don't do them for the Black Butler ones anymore. I don't think.
Yeah.
So here is a quick clip from Grelle behind stage after the first run of Licorice
with a fight scene.
With a fight scene, a very high octane song, a very high octane fight scene.
Singing, fighting, dancing.
Yep.
In the costume that you're in with a long wig and several layers.
Yes.
Under stage lights.
色が大嫌いだ。アンの赤毛はとても綺麗だ。地に燃えるリコリスの色。赤い色がまた嫌いになった。
So thumbs up so we know Grelle's okay. But that's just to give you an idea of how intense these scenes are. Again,
if
practicing.
You go backstage and puff oxygen to feel better.
That's not good. They slowed down that scene in the second iteration of Licorice.
And a lot
specifically for him.
In a lot of the reprises of musicals, they'll change various scenes and songs slightly. Some more than others. They'll change the music, and specifically for Grelle's, they changed the pacing a lot to make it way slower because they realized that, holy crap, Grelle is having a really difficult time doing all of this stuff so fast because her songs are usually very fast-paced.
Well, and the performances are typically done whenever they give the weeks that they do the performances. It's usually 7 days a week, back to back to back. So
sometimes
every night
2
they're
shows
doing it.
a night.
Yes.
So
yes. So it's again intense, of course.
Yeah.
So how can we support more Black Butler musicals?
Because I love them. I want more.
Yes. We want to make sure they keep making them because they're wonderful. Try to save up for a Blu-ray or DVD copy if you can. When requesting fan subs from people online who are kind enough to do it, please ask them nicely. Usually they'll request like a receipt or a picture of your copy or something like that so they can make sure that you actually bought one.
Go in together to buy it. That's what we do.
That's what we do typically.
We go in together and purchase a copy, and then we just kind of share it.
We just have a party, a
we
slumber
just have
party.
a viewing party or something like that.
We have a Kuro day, and everyone just comes over and we have a viewing party together, and it's fun. So,
again, please don't upload the files publicly. Think of us hardworking Shinigami out there.
Think of the hardworking actors, basically, who don't get paid for this, and we want to make sure that Black Butler stays popular, and it's if we undermine that, then it's gonna, especially for American fans over here, when one person over here messes up, it makes all American fans look bad, and we don't want to misrepresent ourselves to the Japanese market. You know what I mean?
And
it's just bad.
A lot of people ask why stuff like the musicals and the like the more recent arcs like Book of Atlantic that just came out in theaters and it just came out on DVD, but it is not subbed yet. A lot of people are wondering why these aren't easier to get in the U.S., why they aren't more easily attainable, why we have to order from places like CD Japan, or why we can't just order through some place like Funimation or a carrier that just has anime.
Amazon.
Yeah, like Amazon. And one of the reasons is because since the files are being shared publicly, that makes Americans not go buy it. And so then it doesn't look like there's any sales in the U.S.
They don't see a market for it.
If you're a marketer and you're not seeing that anyone's buying it in the U.S., why would you put more resources and finances into selling to the U.S. when there's clearly not a market for it over there?
So, for example, the first musical, That Butler Friendship, when you ordered the DVD or CD, it came with English subtitles, and they were good
very
English
good
subtitles.
English subtitles too.
None of the other ones have come with English subtitles since.
Yeah. So they were testing it out the first time.
They were testing to see what the market was like, and they decided no. So we, as people over here on this side of the pond, we've got to try to make sure that we represent ourselves well so that we can show the Japanese market that they should make stuff more available to us in our language so we can actually enjoy it.
And that's really not just for Black Butler, that's for any kind of entertainment that you're getting, any anime or anything like that you're
Well, people have gone on Yana Toboso's Twitter and yelled at her for things not being available, and that just makes her not...
It's not a very nice
that
way
makes
to
her feel
treat
like
the creator
American
of one
fans
of your
are
favorite
mean.
fandoms.
So, I mean, we should just be nice to senpai, basically. If you want senpai to notice you.
That's what we're trying to do collectively, is get senpai to notice us.
Yeah. But yeah.
All right. So that's pretty much the end of our panel, everyone.